Hi all, welcome back. So let's start our first lesson. I hope you are excited as me on this. Okay, let's begin. Okay, first, what is interest? Okay, interest come about when money is lent or invested for a compensation. So the amount of money that is lent or invested is called the principal amount. Let's say our principal amount is X. So the compensation that the lender get for the financing or the investor get for the investing, the compensation is the interest. So accumulated value. Accumulated value is noted as follows: AVT. That is the amount that X have grown to up to time T. So this is the value at time T. We don't know the starting time, but we know the ending time. So this value at time T will consist of the principal and the interest accrued. When I say we don't know, actually we know, but from this notation we cannot see what is the beginning time, because this notation will only indicate what is the ending time. Okay, next, interest earned during a period of, let's say, T and T plus S. So the interest earned is basically simply the accumulated value at the ending time minus the accumulated value at the beginning time. So the difference between the value of the ending and the beginning is the interest earned during the period. Also, repayment of the loan by the borrower will be either by one lump sum or a series of payment, depending on the payment schedule as agreed. However, if there's basically the different payment schedule will also lead to different interest due. So interest amount will be different depending on your payment schedule. Okay, let's move on. Accumulation and discounting factor. Okay, start with the accumulation value factor, AVF. Okay, let time be measured in a suitable unit. Usually we use years, but we can also use month or even days, but the most common is years. Imagine an investment of 1 ringgit at time T1 to T2, where T1 is before, it comes before T2, of course. So if we write A T1 comma T2 like this is basically an accumulation value factor. It is called factor because it is the accumulation for a unit investment of 1 ringgit. If we want to see the accumulation value for an actual investment amount, we will use this factor as a multiplier to our actual investment amount. So that's why it is called as factor. Okay, let's see an example of an accumulation value factor here. So this is an accumulation value factor between time 0 and time 1. So it is 1.1. So if you see, usually A, T1 and T2, it is in the form of 1 plus the growth percentage. So that growth percentage is the percentage that our initial investment grew by in that investment period. So here it grew by 10% in that investment period. I also want to highlight to you that the investment period for the accumulation value factor doesn't have to be 1. It doesn't have to be a unit period of 1. Let's say here our accumulation value factor is over 2 years instead of 1. So it's from time from year 3 to year 5, from time 3 to time 5. So for this one, the accumulation value factor is 1.08, means it grew by 8% over 2 years. Okay. So, and one more thing you need to know about accumulation value factor is if you want to write A 0 t, it is basically the accumulation of a 1 ringgit between time 0 to time t, right? You can also silent the 0 and then write it as such, AT, or for example A15 means it is the accumulation value factor for 0 to time 1.5, but instead of writing it like this, we can also write it as A 1.5. Okay, and here also ATT, if our beginning time and our ending time is the same, means we haven't got a chance to our investment period haven't started yet technically, so our accumulation value factor is still 1 because it doesn't have a chance to grow yet. Okay, so I hope you understand about the accumulation value factor now. Now let's look at accumulation function. So if our accumulation value factor is a function of time t. So if you see, this is an example, x-axis is time from the first investment. So our first investment happened at time 0, and our x-axis is the time from the first investment, and our y-axis is our accumulation value factor. So if you see here, it start at 1. At time 0, our accumulation value factor is 1, and then it keeps on progressing. For our first accumulation value function here, it is a constant, so it's a flat line. Second, it is a increasing line, but it's a linear progression, and then this one is an exponential progression. So this one means our 1 ringgit grow as a straight line, and then this one, our 1 ringgit grow exponentially. So here you can see the speed of the growth keep on increasing. It gets steeper and steeper and steeper. So from these three, which one would you invest your money in? I don't know about you, but I will invest here, because obviously in the longer term, in the long run, our investment will be a lot higher than the other two. Okay, so this one we call it as accumulation function, or it will be small a t, like this. Okay, now let's try to understand accumulated value. We touched a little bit about accumulated value just now in our introduction slide. So for a single investment C that earns interest over a period of beginning period and ending period T1 and T2, the accumulated value at time T2, or we write it as such, right? AVT2, or technically it's just AVT, the ending value. This one is the ending value. So the AVT is going to be as follows. It's going to be our beginning principal, our principal amount, times our accumulation value factor. So the accumulation value factor have to be a suitable factor lah. It have to be as such. The accumulation value factor from the beginning investment, beginning time, and the ending time. Okay, so C times the accumulation value factor, you will get the accumulated value, and that is for a single investment. I want to highlight that accumulation value we always calculate for multiple investment, not just one single cash flow, multiple cash flows. Let's see an example here. Here we have two cash flows. So we have one deposit at time 0 and one deposit at time 2. So find accumulation value at time 4 for these two deposits. So technically, what is how to get this? It's just the sum of this deposit accumulated over 4 years plus the second deposit accumulated over 2 years. So it's the sum of all of the cash flows, but it is both evaluated at time 4. Okay, so that is accumulated value. It is calculated either for single cash flow or multiple cash flows. And then, if our accumulated value factor follows an accumulation function, like as such, like just now, if we have AT, then we can also derive AT, the amount function. If we have AT, we can also derive amount function. Technically, the amount function is just your initial investment times your accumulation function.